Hey, this is John Bartlett from Brentwood Growth. We're doing another episode in our series of Sale or Scale, and I'm proud to have Jonathan Babcock with me from Compass Equity Group. Jonathan, thank you
John,
for yeah, man. Thank you for
appreciate you
for
having me
spending a
on.
few minutes.
Yeah,
Where are you
yeah,
calling in
appreciate
from today?
good old St. Louis, Missouri. Everybody that's not as familiar with the Midwest, winter rolls off, and as soon as we start getting good weather, you got to fight seasonal allergies and getting crushed a little bit now. But finally, it's funny. I've got a buddy on the West Coast and 55 degrees. He's in a winter coat now. He's totally sold out. But here in St. Louis, if it hits 55, shorts and a t-shirt. So we're living
You get
our
the four
best
seasons,
lives.
don't you? You
We
get four
we
seasons.
do.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the same week. Yeah, it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you on
Yeah.
your toes.
Yeah,
So
I've got a colleague that works with us that's in Michigan, and I think she told me on Friday it was 74 degrees, and then on Tuesday she had 3 inches of snow.
yeah,
It's
that
sort of
sounded like what it was about 3 weeks ago. This past
yeah,
weekend we had
yeah.
sleet, tornado warnings, and all that fun stuff in the same week. And then it was 65 the next day. So
Good.
we're
Well, good.
battling it, but
So to get us kicked off here, give us a brief background of your journey and how you got to Compass, and a bit more about Compass.
yeah. My personal journey really came on about 3 years ago, but before that, spent time in lower middle market, M&A, various roles, but kind of one common theme within that was business development. Just really enjoy, like we're doing today, building relationships, connecting with people. I think on average, having about 1,000 meetings every year. And, I always say, you build relationships, you never know where it goes, don't expect anything, try and find ways to add value to others and good things come of it. And, combining that with, I think, a little bit of the entrepreneurial spirit. My family, on my mom's side, they've got a family business that was started in 1908. My great grandfather came over from Italy, stopped in New York for 6 years, and then moved on, found himself somehow in a little town in Iowa where they started a chocolate store back then. And story has it, they bought the original recipe for a quarter, and the rest was history. Now it's on to its fourth generation. And so the opportunity to talk to family founder-led businesses on a daily basis, it's, as you know and are familiar, it's a once in a lifetime sale. It's a very emotional process.
Mhm.
That business, Lager Messina's, it's on to the fourth generation, but it's not easy, transitioning to that many generations. I think looked up some data before coming on, and I think about a third of businesses make it to the second generation within the US. And so helping through that process, whether that's us or just being an educational resource for founders, is really pivotal and crucial to what we do, because it's not an overnight sale. It's, hey, let's build a relationships over the course of a year, 18 months, sometimes 2 years. And so that opportunity has been awesome. And being on the Compass now for about 3 years, seeing the team continue to grow. When I started, it was 10 people. Now we've got about 25. We really got founded by our founding managing partner, John Hune, who prior spent some time in corporate development and also had some entrepreneurial success on his own before founded the group in 2014. And so we're now in our third fund, but started as an independent sponsor. We're raising money by a by deal basis. We closed about 10 partnership opportunities through that. And then have gotten out, raised a few more funds. And so his lens, I think, is more unique than maybe most. I think through his time in corporate strategy and development, said, why are we taking a less strategic approach? And so that's where everything starts with us, is thesis, top down, spending time in business services, niche manufacturing, value add distribution, but within that, finding core segments that are exciting, a lot of the similar industries that you're spending time in, and do enough to get smart on an industry. And always tell owners, ask the question of, have you spent time in this space? Because that's going to allow them to understand if they know where to invest and how to take care of the people in the business. But
Well, thank you for that. And for those that might not be um, what's the difference an independent and a private equity?
For sure. There's a growing wave, I would say, of independent sponsors. It's not easy to make the transition. Blood, sweat, and tears was done by the team at the time. But difference really is independent sponsors generally raising money on a deal by deal basis. And so when they connect, there's still maybe fundraising, figuring out which, investors that want into that certain deal, validating it and kind of selling that specific opportunity to them. And so generally speaking, that process takes a little bit longer. And so if you're approached by that group, just know, one, I think the cultural fit comes down is very pivotal in that moment. But then, a committed fund, you're on a very specific time horizon as well. But they have capital that's ready to go. And I think that's, the thought process of why we got out and raised, that institutional fund is because as soon as we find that right opportunity, we're ready to hit the ground running and move with conviction. And so, two different processes. I think, both can achieve the same goal in a different way, but that's kind of how we did it.
And so what sector are you guys looking at?
Yeah, so call it, overarching niche manufacturing, value-added distribution, business and consumer services. But within those, right now, we probably have 10 investment theses that deal teams, work on a, really daily, weekly basis. And that approach stemmed from John Hune again, kind of his time in corporate strategy and development, having that strategic lens, having a reason to really partner with that owner means a lot. I think you're seeing a theme where capital's almost a commodity. Owners are starting to realize it's just about everywhere. We do a lot of direct outreach internally as well as we develop these theses, and don't wait for opportunities to come in and try and get direct contact with owners. But some of these owners say you've been called on 7-8 times that week, right? And so I think there's 2,000 plus PE firms similar to us in the lower middle market, and there's about 1.5 trillion in dry capital, and you've got to have a reason to kind of stand out and when you connect with that owner. And so that thesis work really allows us to do that. Thinking back through some of our most recent partnerships, we made a partnership in the restoration services space. That was Bobby Bryan from our team, who spent 2 years in the industry, getting out, going to trade conferences, industry trade shows, meeting kind of the who's who of the industry, really learning it, not just at a high level, but going down, a layer further to where when we connected with that owner for the first time, able to talk the industry at least, enough to move the needle. And so I think that, definitely plays a large part in everything we do, but still coming humbly to the table. We'll always say it's a collaborative approach where that owner's probably forgotten more than we'll pick up in the industry. And so that's why it's a two-sided partnership. But
And what makes it interesting within those particular sectors? What are you looking for in terms of individual business size, infrastructure, revenue mix, management team? What are you looking for?
yeah, size-wise, we're focused pretty true lower middle market, right? So first institutional capital in, finding, owners, founders that are excited about that second stage of growth, see a runway to, double, triple the business in the next few years, but have maybe hit an inflection point where they're, every last dollar is going back into the business, is coming out of their pocket. It's a big financial responsibility. At the end of the day, they're putting food on the table for 100 plus families. That sometimes I had a really cool story from an owner that said they had an employee come up to them and talk about how through their opportunity to grow at the company, they were able to send 3 of their kids through college, buy a house they never thought they could, buy a truck they never thought they could. And so it's a big financial responsibility. So the owners we're partnered with are generally at that inflection point, see an opportunity for growth, but realize they need, some additional resources that need to be brought to the table. And so size wise, call it, 2 to 15 of EBITDA. Generally we're coming in, helping that owner augment the team, promote internally. People are really at the core of everything we do in the lower middle market. And so highlighting other employees that could be elevated to COO, because some of these owners are wearing multiple hats by the time, we're coming in and working with them. And so finding those key individuals to put in place, and then augment systems, right? Some of these owners have hit, that glass ceiling. They've taken it to an impressive inflection point by the time we're coming in and partnering with them, but systems and processes. And so another leg of the stool on top of the thesis work that we do is John Yoon has really structured what we call our Compass Guides team. And so we call it our operational excellence group, where we've got 5 individuals working across the portfolio. Little different than I would say some other PE firms, where they've got, maybe an operating executive that's got more of a Swiss Army knife tool approach, where we've got more structured individuals that came from, technology. We've got one person for technology strategy. So think ERP implementation, CRM, even AI, that's a new theme. We've got somebody for marketing and sales strategy, FP&A, so all the financial planning and analysis. We've got somebody for human capital management, and then legal resources as well. And so whether they're at a place where they've already have a team built out, a CFO and all that stuff, we're coming in and helping augment where need be.
When you find a business that's in your going to pay for the, how are you thinking the structure in terms of investment component? Is there a sales component? Is
Yeah,
there an component? Is there a rollover equity component?
for sure. And sometimes it's a blend really of all three, I would say. In this competitive environment, you're seeing some groups pay, all cash at close. I'd say we're pretty modest or pretty conservative from a debt perspective. And so trying to over equitize where we can when we partner with these groups. But I think you hit on it a little bit, where, some of these project-based businesses, or saw a heavy uptick or waiting to sign on a few projects, that's where an earnout comes into play, where they're able to recognize some of that growth but still partner at the time of a sale, where you're not leaving quote unquote chips on the table. And so an earnout structure allows you to do that. And then rollover equity, looking across the portfolio, I would say pretty much all the owners we partner with, and it goes back to who we're looking to partner with and why, are excited about that next stage of growth, where they're rolling over pretty significant equity. But it can look like in varying forms, and it all comes back to what the end goal of finding a partner for that owner really lies in. And so if they're wanting to spend more time with grandkids, more time fishing, more time doing things they enjoy, all cash and kind of stepping away, is a little different structure. And so it's, maybe finding a strategic or a group that's already got a CEO that they can easily put in place. But understanding those dynamics helps drive how that, kind of potential structure is put together.
You mentioned project in any type of projects outside of new construction or construction. Is there a formula that you look at in terms of construction exposure that you're willing to take versus the service replacement exposure?
Yeah, I would say, no two businesses are truthfully the same, but think back to restoration services, a thesis that we just worked through. Saw a number of opportunities over the last few years, where some of them have more of that catastrophe work, right? Storm chasing, I think, is what some call it, even on the roofing side, some of the contractors that you work with. And so that's really, I kind of think of it as a one-time occurrence, where it's maybe a blended average or a lower multiple associated with that part of the business. And very similarly to new construction, it's kind of a one-time project, right? And less recurring or reoccurring
Right.
than some people spend, where just having that expectation and understanding, I think, as an owner, how to diversify that mix ahead of a sale. And obviously working with someone like yourself that is well versed in what the different value drivers are, helps that owner kind of prepare things before they're thinking about it. Because sometimes, we get it, it's life event driven, things come up, and
Right.
now all of a sudden you want to think about a sale process. But I think talking through this in prior conversations with you, owners that have the foresight to say, hey, in 3 years, this is where I want to be and this is how I want to get there. Putting some of those, at least at a high level, systems and processes in place and kind of diversifying their revenue in the business is beneficial, which again, easier said than done at times, but really that helps drive some of the value that we're hoping to help achieve at the end of the day.
When you've submitted and the sellers can offers as well, how do you present in the best way possible so that that owner might sort of put your offer in a category by itself to some of those other offers? What particular advantages is Compass bringing that sort of brings you to the head of the group?
For sure. Yeah, and there's a book I really like, just would throw it out there, called The Innovation Stack by Jim McKelvey. He's a fellow St. Louisan, born here, co-founder of Square, but he talks about what are the different things you can stack within your business to make you differentiated. And we kind of, I would say, think about things, some of that, and it really starts with a thesis-driven approach, understanding an industry, not just at a high level, but the different nuances and being able to at least talk the same language. And then, I think our Compass guides from the operational excellence standpoint, having people that you're not going through 3 different contacts to figure out how to help implement the ERP system. It's, hey, pick up the phone, call Jason. He's going to work with you and do whatever it takes to help you get that move forward. And that relationship approach, I think, at the end of the day, the lower middle market, it's all about people, right? And at the first and foremost, taking care of people, doing what you say you're going to do. I grew up in a small town, and understanding owner dynamics within a town, people talk. And so think through that sale process, understanding, finding the best partner is really crucial for a lot of these owners. And I think it's first and foremost, I think we're pretty competitive. At the end of the day, when you get down to the final few, valuation is pretty close. And so I think a lot of groups, went on cultural appeal and doing what you say you're going to do. Just got off the phone with a fellow portfolio company. One of the owners that partnered with us was talking to a potential add-on and talking about how we ensured that, the legacy of the business and taking care of people, it's played out over the last 2 years and helping that owner feel comfortable. And so I think those are the things really between that I've heard really come down to kind of us propelling forward. And as an owner sitting on the other side of the table, right, you see some headlines about private equity, not understanding what it's really all about. I think some individuals think that you're going to come in, cut costs, find a way to improve margins just by cutting costs. And really it's about people and about growth. And I think that comes from augmenting the team, building out systems, and really investing in the business in a meaningful way.
Good. Okay, so you find a business, then you submit, you have a conversation with the seller selection happens. We're off to the due diligence. What is the time an offer is accepted until the deal closes? What are the steps involved, and how long does that process usually last?
Yeah, I would say, it's contingent, or put an asterisk around receiving information on a timely basis, which at the end of the day, a lot of these owners, you don't want to take your eye off the ball, right? Just to get all these the information requests over. You still want to be focused through the process on growing the business, hitting certain metrics, because that's, the best way to prove out performance. But, on a timely manner for getting information, once we get a signed LOI in place, and us, I think, doing the thesis work up front helps expedite that a little bit. We understand the nuances with the industry, understand what, certain metrics or things come up, allows us to move a little bit more efficiently than some. But generally, I would say 90 days, through diligence, contingent on getting information on a timely basis once we get something signed up, sometimes 120 days, but sometimes it's quicker, 60 days. We're working on one now where given some of the seller things going on in certain contracts that they're trying to win, want to find a partner quicker or sooner rather than later. And so understanding, again, goes back to that collaborative approach. What makes sense for the owner and what makes sense for that process is the timeline we're trying to work on, at least to the best we can.
At what point says does the say anything to employees? What have you found?
Yeah, I would say until, a signed LOI is in place or, and then you get access, right, to a little bit more of the team below the management team. But I would say usually post close, right? You're trying to, once you see that pathway to, hey, this is pretty certain, you're a week or two out, you want to, cultivate that message in a meaningful way. And going back to, some of the partnerships we've done, it was really to preserve the legacy and allow employees opportunities for growth. Heard a lot of amazing stories from, we just had our kind of annual meeting with a lot of the investors where, a lot of our CEOs and portfolio companies came into town, and them talking through some of the opportunities employees have had for growth is pretty tremendous, right? Because they found a new partner that's excited about growth. Not only does that mean, the business is growing, but that means people are growing in their professional careers through that. And so, working alongside the management team to communicate that message, I think as quickly as possible once you close is really important. But then also from a supplier standpoint, you know, our end goal is to drive, these businesses for growth and help them elevate. And, from a supplier standpoint, that's hopefully more purchasing and we're buying more supplies and different things from them. And across the board customers, hopefully that means you're getting better service and really communicating that message, not just to the employees, but quickly thereafter, everybody else is kind of within that ecosystem.
How does a seller, a founder who started this business, his own thing for years, and all of a sudden selling full interest in selling all of the business. How does he write down what how his life changed once this deal closed?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, comes back to what's their goal, right? There's a lot, it's a competitive marketplace. Like I talked about, there's lots of buyers out there eager to find, that business to partner with. And so understanding what their end goal is helps you create, that universe of who you need to think about talking to. Person like yourself, obviously a good starting point for going through that process and understanding who, based on what your goal is, do you want to walk away from the business tomorrow? Do you want to start deep sea fishing tomorrow? Do you want to start spending more time with the grandkids, stop missing, soccer games, all these different things tomorrow? Or does that horizon look like, over the next 3 to 5 years, you're excited about growth, you know you can execute on some of the strategic plans you have in place, but you need a partner to do that. And if that's the case, staying involved and finding the right, group that, culturally aligns with what your vision is for the business is really crucial, right? And things move quickly. And so I think the biggest message maybe to owners is understanding what that goal is maybe a little bit sooner rather than later. Because I talked to an owner not too long ago that loved to do cross country motorcycle rides with some of his friends, and early 60s, we'll say. He got into a little bit of an accident, not life threatening, anything like that. And the wife then shortly thereafter said, either you're figuring out something to do with the business or you're giving up motorcycle rides, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, you got to think about some of those things a little bit before that life event happens. And so having that plan, even if it's in the back of your head, right, and talking to people like yourself that are a good resource is really crucial, which I think, granted, a lot of owners don't necessarily think about, but it's a good thing to always keep in the back of your mind. Things move quick, and next thing you know, you've got an unsolicited offer on your desk. And really, is this what it needs to be? Is it the fair valuation? Is it the process you want to go through? And a lot of times, maybe it's not. And so having that end goal in mind, I think is critical for a lot of owners.
If someone's thinking this, what are some thoughts that you would encourage that maybe they have to be sure they're ready and they're ready to sell the business?
Yeah, and I would say, it goes back to what's their goal through the process, but some of the things we look for is have they employed people below them to go out, talk to customers, be interfacing, right? Some of the owners we talk to, which at the end of the day, they built the business, so no wrong, but they're the one that holds all the customer relationships, right? From a succession planning standpoint, you're looking at systems and processes. Is there a repeatable, predictable, scalable process in this business that, if the owner steps away tomorrow, it will continue to run and continue to perform and continue to grow on its own? And so understanding, I think, again, back to the end goal, do they want to walk away tomorrow or do they want to stay on for 3 to 5 years? Kind of that next bite of the apple is where that process starts. But, start thinking about, systems and processes. There was another, I think, business that was tracking a lot of its sales through filing cabinets still. And this digital world, digital age we're moving into, even with AI, can't fully process how all of that works. But read a few books here recently where you just got to dip a toe in the water. And same with implementing a CRM system. It's not an easy process to go through. Same with implementing an ERP system, not an easy process to go through. But before you think about that sale process, if those things aren't in place, start thinking about how you can implement that to really, drive the most value in what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, that's great. In closing,
I would say, a few just to close, broader themes I think we're seeing in the industry, because I think it's always crucial for owners to be aware of. I think, again, AI is a moving theme. Not that every, small business is going to try to find ways to implement AI, but, show again that you're trying to be forward thinking in your process. For a lot of the home services or contractor businesses, there's AI voicemails, customer service, AI chatbots, different things that there's already consulting firms working with groups to help implement. And if you think about, more labor intensive businesses, you're not, implementing AI to replace jobs. You're utilizing it to elevate people to perform really at their highest level, and using it to more take people's, more mundane, more methodical work off their plate, where you're elevating them to do the more important things. I don't think it's ever going to replace, personal, obviously, interaction. It's more, I look at my email inbox. I've got 150 something emails I got to comb through. How can I utilize it? We're implementing a software to implement, different ways to get more efficient through that. And so just be, I think, forward thinking. And if you're going through a sale process and if it's not in the next 3 to 5 years, just start thinking about what that might look like and different things you can kind of implement in your business. And talking to a good person like yourself is a good starting point. So our website, cgep.com. Check out our LinkedIn marketing team. Brad and Kate do an excellent job.